The observation deck of Station Artemis 7 offered a panoramic view of the quantum foam that had replaced what used to be the Andromeda sector. Bella stood with her neural interface humming softly at the base of her skull, watching the probabilistic waves collapse and reform in patterns that would have driven pre-expansion humans mad. She was 13 standard years old, though her cerebral cortex had been enhanced with quantum processors that made her chronological age largely irrelevant. Subject Leo 447 has achieved 94% integration with the Schrödinger matrix, the station AI announced, its voice a careful modulation of frequencies designed not to trigger Bella's sensory sensitivities. Bella didn't turn from the window. He's not a subject, he's Leo. Behind her, Warden Kresh made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a cough. The man was old-school biological, refusing all but the mandatory neural enhancements. His muscular frame was pure genetic lottery, untouched by the optimization protocols that had become standard for the military caste. He represented the last generation that still believed in the sovereignty of unmodified flesh. "The boy is a test case, Bella," Kresh said, his voice carrying the sandpaper quality of someone who'd spent too many years breathing recycled station air. "The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be." Leo sat in the center of the integration chamber, a spherical room where the walls constantly shifted between states of matter. He was younger than Bella by 2 years, his body small and frail compared to the enhanced children who usually underwent the Schrödinger protocol. But his mind was different. Where others saw quantum superposition as chaos, Leo saw music. Where scientists saw probability clouds, Leo saw gardens. The cat materialized beside him, as it always did during integration sessions. Not a real cat, of course. Nothing was truly real anymore in the quantum zones. The feline was a manifestation of the Schrödinger matrix itself, a semi-conscious echo of the famous thought experiment that had birthed the technology humanity now depended on. It flickered between states, alive and dead, present and absent, corporeal and ethereal. The cat had chosen Leo, bonded with him in ways the research team still couldn't fully explain. Leo's small hand reached out and the cat rubbed against his palm. Where they touched, reality stabilized. The quantum foam outside the station calmed. The probability waves aligned into something approaching order. "Remarkable," breathed Dr. Yenesh from her monitoring station. "His coherence field extends over 40,000 kilometers now. That's triple the baseline from last week." Warden Kresh moved toward the integration chamber's control panel. His expression was hard, carved from the same unyielding substance that had made him effective in the gene wars. "We need to push him further. The collapse is accelerating. If we can't stabilize larger sections of space-time." "He's 11 years old," Bella interrupted, her voice quiet but carrying a harmonic that made the station's smart matter walls shiver. "He's humanity's best chance at surviving the next century," Kresh countered. "The quantum substrate is unraveling. Every day more sectors slip into superposition. More colonies wink out of existence. If Leo can scale up." "You're hurting him." Kresh's jaw tightened. "Pain is a neurological construct. We've dampened his." "You've dampened his ability to report it," Bella said, finally turning to face him. Her eyes had gone the color of mercury, a sign that her own quantum processors were engaging. "I can feel it through the mesh network. Every time you increase the integration load, parts of him stop existing in definable states. He's becoming smeared across probability space." "That's the whole point of the protocol," Kresh said impatiently. He reached for the control panel. "We need him to become quantum native, to exist in superposition consciously. It's the only way to repair the damage the expansion caused." The cat hissed. It was a small sound, barely audible over the hum of the station's fusion cores and the whisper of air recyclers. But Bella heard it. More than heard it, she felt it, a ripple of warning that propagated through the quantum field like a stone dropped into still water. Kresh ignored the cat. He'd always ignored it, treated it as a quirk of the system, a glitch to be tolerated. His fingers moved across the haptic interface, increasing Leo's integration load from 94% to 98%. Leo gasped, not a sound of surprise, but a small, desperate intake of breath as if drowning. His body began to flicker, cycling through existent states so rapidly he appeared as a blur, a smear of possibility wearing a child's shape. The cat's form solidified. For one moment it became completely, undeniably real, more real than anything else in the chamber, more real than the walls or the floor or the air itself. Its eyes fixed on Warden Kresh with an intelligence that was ancient and alien and utterly indifferent to human concerns. Kresh's hand moved again, pushing the integration to 99%. And Bella whispered, "You shouldn't have done that." Her voice carried harmonics that existed in frequencies normal human hearing couldn't detect, but the station heard, the quantum substrate heard, and most importantly, the Schrödinger matrix heard. The cat struck. Not physically. The cat existed in a state beyond simple physical interaction. Instead, it reached out with probability claws and slashed through the threads that kept Warden Kresh anchored to a single timeline. Kresh screamed as he suddenly existed in sewer position. One version of him stood at the control panel. Another was never born. A third died in the gene wars. A fourth became warden of a different station in a different sector. A fifth abandoned the military caste and became a farmer on New Hokkaido. A sixth, seventh, eighth, hundreds of Kreshes, thousands, all existing simultaneously, all conscious, all screaming as their unified identity shattered across the probability space. Dr. Yenesh lunged for the emergency cutoff, but Bella's hand caught her wrist. "Don't," Bella said softly. "The cat is correcting an error." "He's dying," Yenesh shouted. "He's experiencing every possible version of his death," Bella corrected, "and every possible version of his life. He's becoming what he tried to make Leo become. It's symmetrical." In the integration chamber, Leo's flickering stopped. His form solidified. The boy opened his eyes, eyes that now held depths that hadn't existed before, eyes that had seen through the veil of probability and returned with something like wisdom. The cat sat beside him, grooming its paw with a tongue that phased between states of matter. "I tried to tell him," Leo said, his voice carrying the same harmonic qualities as Bella's now. "The cat isn't part of the Matrix. The cat is the Matrix. Or maybe the Matrix is just one of the things the cat is. It's hard to explain in linear causality." Warden Kresh's screaming had stopped. What remained of him stood at the control panel, but his expression had changed. No longer hard and certain, his face now showed the terrible understanding of someone who had experienced every possible consequence of every possible choice. "I saw," he whispered, his voice broken into overlapping frequencies. "I saw the timelines where I pushed harder, where I succeeded in making Leo quantum native, where humanity stabilized the collapse." He laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "I also saw the timelines where Leo lost all coherence and spread across the universe as an eternally suffering consciousness, where he became a god, where he became nothing, where the cat decided we weren't worth saving." Bella released Dr. Yenesh's wrist and walked to the integration chamber. The quantum walls parted for her, recognizing her authority. She knelt beside Leo, and the cat rubbed against both of them, purring with a sound that existed in frequencies that made nearby matter hum in sympathetic vibration. "Can you help him?" Leo asked, gesturing to Kresh. Bella considered the question. Through her neural interface, she could see the probability thread still tangled around the warden, keeping him locked in partial sewer position. The cat had been merciful. Kresh would eventually collapse back into a single timeline. But he would never forget the experience of existing as all possible versions of himself simultaneously. "He'll recover," Bella said. "Mostly, he won't try to hurt you again." "He was trying to save humanity," Leo said quietly. I could feel his intentions through the integration field. He's not evil, just desperate. Desperation makes people do evil things, Bella replied. She stood and addressed the cat directly, something the research team had advised against. Thank you. The cat regarded her with eyes that were simultaneously slitted and round, amber and blue and colors that had no names in human language. Then it faded, not disappearing, but rather distributing itself across probability space until it existed everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Dr. Yenesh was helping Kresh to a chair, the warden still mumbling about timelines and choices. She looked at Bella with something between fear and awe. What happens now? The doctor asked. Bella looked out at the quantum foam, at the sectors of space that existed in undefined states, at the collapse that was slowly unmaking the universe humanity had tried to claim. Then she looked at Leo, who smiled at her with eyes that had seen infinity and remained kind. Now, Bella said, we try a different approach. We ask Leo what he needs instead of taking what we want. We work with the cat instead of around it. We remember that just because we can force reality to bend doesn't mean we should. She took Leo's hand, and together they walked from the integration chamber, leaving behind the old methods, the desperate measures, the assumption that humanity's survival justified any cost. Outside the window, the quantum foam began to settle into patterns that almost resembled gardens. Behind them, Warden Kresh wept, experiencing every possible version of grief for every possible version of the children he'd almost destroyed. And somewhere in the space between possibilities, a cat purred and decided, for now, that humanity might be worth one more chance.